What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Critical Overlord here. We're going to be talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer in this video here today. So this will be a full-length discussion about the small update I gave you yesterday in another video. We're going to be talking about Sarah Michelle Gellar's recent comments and how this could ultimately lead to what I hope is an announcement sometime next year regarding a revival of the Buffyverse after so many long years, ever since the show was previously announced back in 2018, but then Disney bought Fox, yada yada yada. So we know that earlier this year, Dolly Parton made it clear that that was still a work in progress and that the show is still in the works. They're trying to revamp it, no pun intended. And previously it was disclosed that the show was on pause, but we never got an announcement that it was canceled. At one point, Breen was supposed to come back in to the mix, and she was supposed to be the showrunner, and it was supposed to be about a black Slayer. People thought that this was going to be a black Buffy. They weren't doing that. It was supposed to be, from what I've heard, is going to be a completely new Slayer set in the Buffyverse, set sometime after Chosen, and it was just going to be a black Slayer. That's all. Nothing wrong with that. We had black Slayers previously. Black people actually started the Slayer line. I didn't see any issue with it. People, of course, want to label everything woke and this, that, and the third. It's not necessarily that stuff is woke. Some stuff these days is just a little bit more forceful and lacks subtlety than stuff we've had previously, because Buffy, by the term of what woke is, has always been woke. Now, let's talk about Sarah Michelle Gellar. As you see here on your screen, she has changed her mind, because for the longest time, ever since that announcement in 2018 about a new show coming, she's been saying she doesn't want to do it. She's content with her tenure as Buffy. And at one point, she actually even encouraged, or suggested rather, that Zendaya would be a good choice for a replacement to carry on the legacy of the Buffyverse. But she has changed her mind, and she is seemingly down for Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot, or a revival, as I would like to call it, instead of a reboot. She was on the Drew Barrymore show when she made these comments, because she's been doing this Dexter show, and seeing how the Dexter series has worked has kind of gotten her back into, I would say, a clearer state of mind to realize, hey, you know what? We can actually still do the Buffyverse all this time later. She said, it's funny, I always used to say no because it's in its bubble and it's so perfect. But watching Sex and the City and seeing Dexter and realizing there are ways to do it definitely does get your mind thinking, well, maybe. She went on to say, and it doesn't have to be a prequel. It could be anything. It's a universe, and it makes you realize that in this world, we need those heroes, I think, more so than ever. Now, in addition to these comments from Sarah Michelle Gellar that came out yesterday, we now have this report from Daniel RPK, who has a track record of their own, more recently being correct with a lot of things pertaining to Scream 7 in the story direction and a lot of the casting that's now been confirmed from reputable trades. Daniel is stating that a Buffy revival is in discussions, and they are looking for the network streamer to put it on. Now, I would imagine it would most likely go to Disney Plus or some other network associated with Disney, but she's not wrong. She's not wrong. You can continue the Buffyverse. She doesn't have to be the one that is spearheaded at the front of it again. That story has been told. We can literally capitalize off of what was done at the end of Chosen. Capitalize off of all the sacrifices that were made during that episode, and capitalize off of the big game changer that was the spell Willow did, activating not only the potentials that Buffy had been watching for all those months, but all the young girls and women around the world, and activating them all into being Slayers. There's so many different narratives you can tell. We got a glimpse of this in Angel Season 5 with a, I guess you could say, semi-rogue, unhinged Slayer in Dana. If anyone remembers Dana from Angel Season 5, that was the only type of fallout we saw from Willow's spell, and alluded to, like, again, what I would like to see the show touch on is potential consequences to Willow's spell. Because in Angel Season 5, we got a glimpse of what some of those consequences could be. You gave Slayer powers to someone who's not mentally well. They have a rough upbringing, but hopefully Dana as a character, because I don't know what happened to Dana, hopefully she found some peace, was able to become a worthy Slayer. Maybe she was trained by Faith, because I know Andrew and the other but the other Slayers that came in Angel Season 5 during that episode with Dana, they ended up taking Dana, and yeah, that was the end of that. So hopefully in a revival show, they don't lean on Sarah Michelle Gellar just spearheading the show altogether and being the focal point. We don't need to do Buffy Summers all over again. As much as I know there are people out there who would prefer to see that, I think there is a handful more of people who mostly would want to see new Slayers, new stories told about said Slayers, And what you could do is an anthology type of show. Each season is about a different Slayer. You can work your way up to a big final season if necessary, if you get to that point, in which something monumentally big, a big bad, if you will, because that's what the show like to call their big villains, the overarching villain of the seasons. You can have a big bad that culminates in all of the Slayers we've been meeting over the past several seasons, however many there have been, 3, 4, 5, who knows. And that's when you can bring in your Buffy, your Faith, your Xanders, Willows, Giles. Have all of the nostalgia come in during the final season for something worthwhile. Obviously, knowing how business works, I think that Disney would actually launch a revival with Sarah Michelle Gellar back as Buffy Summers, and then it would branch out into being a show about different Slayers. Now, there is this series of books by Kendare Blake. Shout out to you if you're listening to this right now, because I know we follow each other on Twitter. I think that Kendare Blake has a wonderful series of novels. While there are some people who take issue with some of her writing decisions, I think that the template she has is a perfect foundation on how to do a Buffy revival with that series of books. I think basing it off of her series of books and making the Slayer Willow's daughter, I think the name was Frankie, who's also a witch, and she has her own group of friends. We're in a not a newly rebuilt, but a rebuilt Sunnydale. She's at Sunnydale High. Buffy and Faith and other Slayers have gone missing, and she's just spending multiple seasons trying to track down Buffy, Faith, and the other Slayers that have gone missing, while also coming to terms with her own role as a Slayer and as a witch. They have Spike as her watcher. His aging was explained because there was some glamour over him. I just thought that the template in the books that Kendare Blake put together could work as a good template for a Buffy revival. You know, you don't have to do that. You can do other narratives in the Buffyverse. I know some people would love to see a Frey narrative into a TV show. I know people out there would love to see that. But we don't need to lean on Buffy Summers. You don't have to do that. Yes, you could tell a narrative in which Buffy Summers is Slayer still, has a child, and instead of the child being the Slayer, it's just Buffy as a mother handling Slayerhood and motherhood. Maybe she's in a similar position as what Robin's mom was in, Nikki Wood, if you will. Maybe she's in her own Nikki Wood bag. You can do something like that. I just would much rather prefer to see narratives that are about new Slayers, different divisions of Slayers. One season could literally be about a group of Slayers. And they don't have to all survive these seasons. There could literally be something that's brewing over the course of these seasons where some Slayers live, other Slayers die. And it culminates in the return of Buffy, Faith, whoever else you want to get into the mix. And they all come together to take out this major big bad that's been causing problems as an overarching villain throughout the whole entire relaunch of the Buffyverse. I would love to see something like that. You can even branch out and start doing other spin-offs. Disney does so much with the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I don't see why, if you're sitting on a property like Buffy, you can't try to capitalize off of that too. I'm not saying oversaturate the universe like they have the MCU, not at all. But I'm just saying, let some other IPs get some airtime. That's all. Because right now it just feels like you're hogging stuff. You're not doing anything with the Buffyverse. But Sarah Michelle Gellar's comments make me confident that we could see something sooner rather than later, because I feel like Disney is going to get wind of this. They're going to start trying to really get their shit in order, start offering her things, and then next thing you know, we get an announcement. Sarah Michelle Gellar is back for a Buffy revival. I understand that there's also this concern about the lack of Joss Whedon being present if a revival were to actually come to fruition, and maybe Joss Whedon is what the holdup is for all this time. Maybe he has some sort of rights to the IP that's preventing Disney from being able to move forward with a new show. It was a little bit ironic that they canceled that Audible series, and everybody was like, oh, well, they must be trying to actually work out a TV show. And I'm in agreement that that's why that Audible show was canceled. It's just quite ironic that we haven't gotten anything since the Audible show was canceled. So it's like, well, why did you do that? You're not doing anything else with the IP, but whatever. But again, I know there's people out there who are concerned that we won't be able to recapture the same magic with Joss Whedon's absence. I don't think Joss Whedon should be involved given the current climate around him. I also won't be one of those people who cannot recognize that despite what he did, he shouldn't be able to express his talent with us anymore. He is quite talented, and he is a big reason as to why that show works so well. He is a big part of why that universe is so beloved still to this day. And yes, his absence is going to be very obvious, but that doesn't mean we can't have someone else come in and try to recapture that same magic, maybe throw in their own spin, maybe make it a bit darker while still balancing some elements of the humor and lighthearted moments that Buffy and Angel did so wonderfully. More so Buffy. Angel was a little bit more darker. I'm not saying it will be just like Joss Whedon's shows, because it's most likely not going to be. Only Joss Whedon can do Joss Whedon. But that doesn't mean that because he's gone, it won't be able to be a good show. It just won't be the same Buffy. And I'm prepared for that. As long as it's something competent, I think that's what's most important. It doesn't have to be just like what it was all that time ago. It can be an evolved show with an evolved tone, with an evolved mood, an evolved atmosphere. Just be something competent, featuring quality writing, quality performances, quality stuff that is very reminiscent and believable to be occurring in the Buffyverse, and I think most fans would be satisfied, along with also reeling in a new generation of fans who can fall in love with a new era of the Buffyverse. But let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, of course, make sure you subscribe, turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. In the description, I'll have links to all my social media accounts. I am on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can message me there to let me know any movies, news, or reviews you'd like me to cover in the future. And with all that in mind, guys, I will see you in the next video.